Well, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. First things first, I know it's really early morning. How's your day going so far?
So far, so good. Yeah, I don't start work right away. So for me, it's 11 a.m. So it's not early for me anyway. But yeah, everything's going well. It's a beautiful day here in New York.
That's all you can hope for. It's a beautiful day.
No bombs are getting dropped on my apartment block, so can't complain, right?
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on the release of your new album, Lights
Thank
On.
you.
It's been out since the 4th of March. Now that the dust is beginning to sort of settle, it's been a couple of weeks, how are you finding the reaction to it?
Overall, really positive. I think... let's see. We worked really heavily through PR in Germany and Europe since the beginning of the year. So it's a little weird because it's different from other record cycles that I've been involved with. You know what I mean? It's a little bit more prolonged, and I think the reviews are starting to happen now, and I'm pretty happy, I got no complaints.
What do you find yourself paying more attention to? The kind of critical reviews that you get in your magazines and so on websites, or the fan-based stuff, the comments and that sort of thing?
Yeah, to be honest with you, it's more about the fans. Like a lot of times, and this has happened in, almost every band I've ever played in, where, occasionally a reviewer who's really into, like, I don't know, hardcore will get my band, and let's say I play in a garage band and the guy's like, this shit sucks, so, and that just happens just because it happens, you know what I mean? So, there's always going to be that. But in general, I'm pretty happy with how people are receiving this, I mean, we were really excited for, numerous reasons. Metal Blade, the pandemic, sitting on a lot of these songs for a couple of years, just really wanting to get this out there and feeling like this was possibly one of the more refined efforts that we had put forth. So, yeah, I'm pretty stoked.
Great. I mean, there's a lot of detail in it. We're getting to some of that now. Considering the sort of song themes, the stuff that surrounds loss, fear, anger, hope, and obviously so much more, the stuff that makes us human, were you kind of confident leading up to the release, and as you were dropping singles, that it would connect to listeners, especially when you take into account what's been happening over the last few years in the world?
God, so yeah, the lyrical themes, you're spot on. There's a lot of that stuff, but I try to like universalize it so that, and it's interesting because a lot of times what that ends up translating to for some people is like I'm writing about, a boyfriend or a lost love or something like that, which is not the case most of the time. But I try to universalize it because I feel like that will bring light to the most people, and sort of, whatever that means. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you want someone to be able to listen to it who's in, say, Australia or Japan and hear and get the same themes as a person who's in your home country.
Correct. Yeah. So it's about the human experience.
Yeah, which is obviously everyone at some point in their life has had one of these things happen to them in some way or another.
Yeah, and in particular, I don't know that I think it's been a while since humanity at large has been smacked with something like this virus, Yeah, it's been a good 30 years 40 years since we really got some scary virus running around, and that was HIV and AIDS. So, yeah, in a fucked up way, it brings us all together.
No, you're not wrong. There's been a lot of positives in that regard. Overall, though, then considering all of that, how have Sanhedrin, how have you guys coped? over the last, say, 2 to 3 years?
Well, I would say relatively well.
Yeah. Good.
We're all still here. So Nathan and I are live sound technicians, live sound engineers. So we really ended up having to go on unemployment during the pandemic, and there was just a ton of uncertainty in terms of the career choices that we had made, and that's starting to come back online, so that's good. But one thing that we did as a band is we just met every Monday, just online, just to talk, just to hang out, just to be friends, just to keep our connection.
So not necessarily about the music?
No, just everything. Because the thing with us, man, it really is, it's about our bond as humans. And that, I think, is what makes this viable for us. If we were just doing it for the music, yeah, I don't know. I don't think we're that kind of people. You know what I mean? I think there has to be something a little bit more there.
No, I get that. I think, obviously, when you think of the sort of longest running bands and the ones that have survived the test of time, it's because the folks in it are friends first.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a unique experience playing music with people, because you really create this nonverbal language that's your own, amongst you and the individuals you're playing with. So that alone makes it this unique and sort of intimate thing, right? So I guess that's why people stick together.
No, absolutely. And what about when it came to creating this album? Was there anything, obviously we're forced to do things differently, but was there anything from it that you think, oh, you know what, that worked really well, and regardless of how the world is as we move forward, we're going to stick to that?
That's a really great question. Okay, so I think we all upped our production game in Logic, right?
Yeah.
Logic is the software that we use to do our demos and stuff. So I think that really was a bonus for all of us. We became much better producers of our own music.
Doesn't matter how long you've been around or how long you've been playing music for, there's always something new to learn, right?
Absolutely, completely, and especially right now with technology changing as it is. I mean, we recorded with Colin Marston, who is an amazing recording engineer who does not use a soundboard.
Okay. I've not really heard of anyone like that before.
I don't know if I just gave away his special sauce. I hope not. Sorry, Colin. But no, he just has an incredible bank of preamps and some really powerful IOs that go straight to the recording software.
Is this one of the reasons why you guys work together?
Not necessarily. I mean, certainly not for me, because I was unfamiliar with that process. I went in and I was like, "Where's the board?" And then I kind of looked at the wall and I was like, "Oh, there's the board." But I will say, as a technician at large, that's the way it's going. So I wasn't uncomfortable.
That's awesome.
All right, let me trust this because this is the way technology is going anyway, and yeah, so.
Well, I think the end result kind of speaks for itself with this album in particular. As you said at the start, the refinement is clear as day. Yeah,
we really... and you know what's funny is we put so much thought into it prior to the actual recording process that the sessions didn't take that long. So... because we knew exactly what we wanted to do. We knew exactly what was going to time out how. I mean, not to toot our horns too much, but we've been doing this for a while. You know what I mean? And it's funny because every time we go into the studio, especially, being, sort of live concert people, we're like, how the hell do people spend 2 weeks getting drum sounds? Like, what are they doing? What's happening in there? I don't understand that. So maybe someday I'll have the luxury of understanding that.
Maybe, yeah. I'd imagine it depends. You're gonna, if you guys
pool involved, if that happens, because
over time, then I guess, and leaning into this album as well, do you think it's getting easier? And I guess this comes specific to lyrics more than anything else, to express the kind of feelings that you have done in certain songs on this album, the sort of introspection, the willingness to share.
Nah, it's never. No, because again, like I'll start out with something really personal, and then I'll be like, let me zoom out on this, because I don't necessarily want to give it all all away. But I'll say this, like, sort of thematically with each album, there's something I need to get out, and that's that I can see now between the three of them how that works. And there's a common theme running through them. I'm definitely observing us as animals doing our thing, but each one has a different kind of moment for me in my own heart and in my own life,
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense when you hear the album. I feel like we could sit here and I could ask you to tell me individual tracks, every one of them, about a specific story. But there's one I want to pick out.
Okay.
Just one.
Okay.
Death is a Door. It's the finale track and the longest one on the album, just over 7 minutes. If you don't mind, I'm going to describe it how I described it in the review, which was going from tranquil melody, soft pattern of drums and thoughtful sound of vocals to energetic and groovy heavy metal noise. It's bloody great. I absolutely love it. But it really kind of left its mark on me. And I'm kind of wondering what you were hoping to express through this specific track.
Okay. So you have great questions, and I'm just going to lay it out there. I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about a group of Cuban punks in the 90s that were, like, really into Nirvana. I don't know. It was a scene in Cuba in the 90s, and the sort of head of the scene actually injected himself with HIV, right? With the virus. And the reason that was given, he's no longer alive, by some of his compatriots were, when there's nothing else, death is a door.
Wow. That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah.
Got the idea. And then I took that and I was like, yeah, man, like, yeah, wow. And then I have some of my own sort of personal philosophies, mishmash of, like, reincarnation ideas and, sort of spiritual guidance in my own world. And just, I threw it all together in this sort of convoluted lyrical musing on stuff.
And it's incredible because you can still absolutely just have a good time headbanging to the heavy metal side of it as well.
See, that's really the clincher with me. You know what I mean? If you really spend a minute listening to the lyrics, then you'll be like, oh.
But that's the joy of...
You can have fun with it too. And I mean, honestly, like, life is a mixture of joy and pain.
I mean, that is, as you said yourself, it's the joy. And it's the joy of delving deeper into the album and on multiple listens and starting to pick out a lot more detail out than, say, it just playing on the radio in the car while you're driving around. This, for me, kind of makes it, like, arguably your most diverse work to date. Kind of keeps people guessing if you listen to it multiple times. Is this a sign of where you guys are musically right now, or do you think it's more of a specific moment in time?
No, I think it's where we are, for sure. One thing that, like, I've been in a lot of bands over the years, and I can say this about this particular ensemble, if you will. Me and the guys really share a work ethic and a love for music, and music has a very similar place in all of our lives, the way we've constructed our lives. So that's super that is fertile ground for productive musical creativity. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think we've just sort of started tapping into that.
See, that's fascinating. It's the fact that you describe it as starting to tap into it. Because I wonder as well, like, and I guess, do you hope one day to be able to look back at this album and reflect upon what it meant at the time, and particularly the songs that are related to things like the pandemic and those situations?
Well, yeah, but here's like the only reference to the pandemic is the one line in the beginning of Correction. The rest of that song is about how the atomic bomb, it's a comparison between the atomic bomb and things like, you know, a virus that we cannot control or are unwilling to control because we don't want to and cannot stop the wheels from turning. You know, if we had just stopped in 2020 for a couple of years, I think things would be really different, but that would never happen right now because geopolitics, global commerce, whatever, you know, just won't happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Even, you know, different countries that we're in, the UK, had its own stop-start moments, but it never really stopped.
Yeah. I mean, you know, anyway. There were only 2 times in my life that I remember not hearing planes in the sky, and that was 9/11 and March 2020.
No, of course. I mean, the second part to that question then has to be, well, right now then for you, what does Lights On mean to you?
It means pay attention, people.
I like that. That's such a nice statement. That stick that on the front of the album. That's how, and put that on the record shelves.
Yeah, that's what it means.
Lastly, Erica, before I let you go, what's the hopeful plan? And I say hopeful because, of course, we never fully know what the state of the world is going to be like in a month, let alone 6 months. Hopeful plan for the remainder of 22. Are you just kind of wanting to get out and tour the hell out of this album?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Big time. I mean, you know, we are in a queue of like hundreds of bands that have been rescheduled and rescheduled again, and so, you know, we're doing what we can, but we have some great dates coming up. Really excited to go to Germany with our friend Stallion, and we're going to do 8 days in Germany, like a sort of deep dive in there. And then we're coming to the States and going straight to Chicago for a festival, Legions of Metal. And then we're going to do some dates around there, you know, as much as possible right now, really. I mean, we have much to sell, people.
And a lot of records to sell, and all I can say is I hope for you guys you have a very busy 2022. That's what we're going to all ask for you.
I hope so too. I had an interview with a guy in England yesterday who was like, "When are you coming over?" And I said, "I don't know." So, you know, start talking, people. We want to come to England.
Watch this space. Erica, thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Nice to meet you, Carl.
Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?